We will be reading from Surah 77, verse 38, inshallah. Let's check our YouTube channel sound, microphone situations. Sometimes we might have a problem there. Okay, perfect. Let's seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected together. Eûzü billahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is the day of decision. We have summoned you and the previous generations. If you have any schemes, go ahead and scheme. Woe on that day to the rejectors. In this Surah 77, we often hear this verse, woe on that day to the rejectors. This surah basically explaining things that will happen to the rejectors, with many examples like the worst situations that they will receive. May God protect us from those events, because it's God's promise, right? It will happen, and we have to be really careful in this world to be not to be like those people. 77:41. The righteous will enjoy shade and springs and fruits that they desire. Eat and drink happily in return for your works. We thus reward the virtuous. Woe on that day to the rejectors. Now God is talking about righteous people, how their end will be after the day of judgment. He gives the example of the shade and springs, fruits, and eating and drinking happily because of their works. And the adjective God used here for those people is the virtuous. But again, God is telling for the rejectors, woe on that day to the rejectors. Eat and enjoy temporarily, you are guilty. Woe on that day to the rejectors. When they are told, bow down, they do not bow down. Woe on that day to the rejectors. Which hadith other than this do they uphold? Surah 77 is ending with these verses, really strong verses, especially at the end of the word, hadith. It's really, for me, it's a big hint how corrupted Islam is using many words beside God's only word, the Quran. Basically, in the verse 48, disbelievers are told bow down, but they didn't bow down in this earth, in this life. But the believers, submitters, they bow down whenever they had the message, or they prostrate before God, right? We know contact prayer, and we know how to bow down, we know how to prostrate. The verse 50, which hadith other than this do they uphold? I wanna mention some things going on in my country, Turkey, about this hadith situation, because it's really interesting. in Turkey there are not just Muhammad Prophet's hadiths around the society. There are many other people's hadiths also. And it's really interesting that the books that they are kind of upholding are called as hadith, but in Turkish söz, which means word. And when you really like translate as a word, it means words. Just the guy's name is Bediüzzaman Said Nursi, and he has a book like the name of he called his book Words, and many people still reading it, upholding it, taking examples from the book. They are studying the book. And we know hadith means in Arabic, hadith is an Arabic word, but when you translate it to English, it means words. So which word I should uphold other than Quran? Surah 78, the event, Al-Naba, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. What are they questioning? The great event that is disputed by them. Indeed, they will find out. Most assuredly, they will find out. Did we not make the earth habitable and the mountains stabilizers? We created you as mates for one another. We created sleeping so you can rest. We made the night a cover and the day to seek provisions. We built above you 7 universes. We created a bright lamp. We sent down from the clouds pouring water to produce with it grains and plants and various orchards. The day of decision is appointed. MashaAllah, in this surah, from the first verse, we see a question from God. And mostly, whenever I see a question in the Quran, I should look for the answer first in Quran, then in my life. I think that's the whole idea for me. But in this question, there is something different. It's not like in some verses how you know the late of destiny, or like some in other example questions there are some other questions, but in this question, verse 1, what are they questioning? Is my voice okay?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. So we see they are questioning the great event, actually. These are the people probably who doesn't believe hereafter. And there are many verses in the Quran. God usually talks about them. That is disputed by them. So those are the people who dispute this day, but Quran says indeed they will find out. Most assuredly they will find out. You know, the situation is so serious here, like get more and more serious every time. Like when we see hereafter word, hereafter, uh, it's gonna be so serious. We know that. But some people who doesn't wanna even think about the hereafter, they will be they will be dispute they will dispute it, they will dispute about hereafter in this world, or even not, maybe not even like thinking about the hereafter. They will just live this life, they will get rich, or they will get their achievements maybe, but most assured they will find out. And then the next verse, did we not make the earth habitable and the mountains stabilizers? These verses are really strong scientific proof also, because I remember the mountain stabilizer, and the mountain stabilizer, this verse is basically telling how mountains is kinda stopping the earthquakes. I might be wrong, but in the comments and questions, you guys can join this verse with your comments. And God says, we created you as mates for one another. We created sleeping so you can rest. We made the night a cover and the day to seek provisions. We built above you 7 universes. We have sleeping. It has many meaning for the submitters. We know that from the Quran. It has many meaning. Just being in sleep, or just, you know, this stage of the life is so much blessing. At the same time, so much fear of God actually. Why? Because we basically die and we wait for the resurrection, and we don't know if we are going hell or heaven yet, unless we surely find out, right? Because God says most assuredly they will find out. May God help us in that day. So we know the rest is really perfect provisions for humankind, and we give meaning in sleeping because of these verses. Alhamdulillah. And God says we made the night a cover and the day to seek provisions. Seeking provisions, there are many verses about how, like, seeking provisions, a humankind should be a hard worker, right? Not lazy, and the day for him should be a time to seek provisions for him and his family, or, you know, around. He should be helpful. And God says, verse 12, we built above you 7 universes. Subhanallah. Mesut brother usually likes to talk about these universes. I listened his study maybe like last month. There were many good information there, inshallah. We will see his study again. And verse 13, we created a bright lamp. I think this verse is referring to sun, maybe. We sent down from the clouds pouring water to produce with it grains and plants and various orchards. The day of decision is appointed. The day the horn is blown and you come in throngs. The heaven will be opened like gates. The mountains will be removed as if they were a mirage. These verses is making me really like always giving me an imagination how terrible, how can be a terrible day or night, that time there will be a horn is blown and we will come in throngs. Imagine like 150 billion people walking on the road or just moving around. The heaven will be opened like gates. The mountains will be removed as if they were a mirage. Interesting, there's a word of mirage here. Mirage is an optical illusion. And sometimes I feel I'm living in a movie, kind of a matrix, and how things are not real, actually. And I feel really comfortable with this idea because I know that I kind of know the Quran. Quran also talks about how this life is not, like how this life is pointless. In some case, in when you think it's a reality, it's nothing. It's just a test. Mirage. Oh, yes. Sorry for my pronunciation. Mirage. Mirage. And imagine the mountains that they were stabilizing the earth. They are going away as like an optical illusion. So if mountain is optical illusion, why everything is not optical illusion except the truth? And 21, Gehenna is inevitable. For the transgressors, it will be their abode. They stay in it for ages. They never taste in it coolness nor a drink, only an inferno and bitter food, a just recusal. They never expected to be held accountable and utterly rejected our signs. We counted everything in a record. Yes, another contrast after uh, explaining righteous things, now again explaining righteous people's life. Now we are seeing the unrighteous or disbelieving people's positions, how they will be in Gehenna, and the transgressors never taste coolness or any drink. 27 is interesting, verse 27. They never expected to be held accountable. I think these are the people who never even think about the hereafter. Otherwise, they would even they would have an idea about the the recompense, right? Like you are doing something and you receive something. I don't know is it the correct word in English, recompense, but you do something, you receive the consequence. So we live this life and we should receive something because of this life. I think this even this idea will never they will never think about like this because they preoccupied with this life. And in this next verse, God says, and utterly rejected our signs. Are these the same people? Probably they are the same people. They are also receiving messages during their lives. No matter they are like not really religious or they are not following anything. They are not following any scripture, let's say. Even though they are receiving signs, but utterly rejecting it. "29. We counted everything in a record." Suffer the consequences. We will only increase your retribution. And we know Jahannam is a place that God will be not there. That's the only place there is no mercy, there is no forgiving by God. Like the whole system is not working there, basically. Imagine, maybe there's a reason. If God would be there, maybe He would forgive them, because that much mercy. Maybe I'm just doing guesswork here. God knows the best. But this is the God system, and how system is working 100% correctly, no mistake. And there's a reason why Jahannam is created, because of those people who transgressed on earth. There should be a reason why God is not there after the day of judgment. But verse 31, again, go back to the righteous things. 31, the righteous have deserved a reward. Orchards and grapes, magnificent supposes, delicious drinks. They will never hear in it any nonsense or lies. A reward from your Lord, a generous recompense. Lord of the heavens and the earth and everything between them, the most gracious, no one can abrogate His decisions. Subhanallah. A reward from your Lord, a generous recompense. Yes, recompense, that I was talking about this word actually. This is like, how it makes sense? It's beautiful word, like the other words, because God is most gracious. God is magnificent. And He has the truth. He is the truth. His system is the correct system. If you really think, if you really search, this life is nothing without the correct understanding. and the righteous, the rewards in these verses, we see the rewards for the righteous, how it's gonna be, how perfect it's gonna be. And when you look at the verse 35, they will never hear in it any nonsense or lies. This verse is from this verse refers to the Jannah, Jannat, heaven. There is no nonsense or lies there. There will be delicious drinks. How amazing God is not. God is putting this example right there, like delicious drinks. You can't even imagine how much delicious gonna be. Like, you never taste, because our mouth or our palate of our tongue is just working for this world right now, and we think we are getting hungry or we are getting thirsty, right? For me, it's just an illusion. It's just a mirage for me. It's not even real. The real drink, real life, right? This is the whole concept of hereafter, I guess. Let's finish it, the surah, inshallah. Surah 78:38. The day will come when the Spirit and the angels will stand in a row. None will speak except those permitted by the Most Gracious, and they will utter only what is right. Such is the inevitable day. Whoever wills, let him take refuge in his Lord. We have sufficiently warned you about an imminent retribution. That is the day when everyone will examine what his hands have sent forth, and the disbeliever will say, "Oh, I wish I were dust." These are really strong finishing verses for me. They are long and they are explaining many details in. The day will come when the Spirit and the angels will stand in a row. This is like a war scene. Imagine, like there will be the angels of God, and and God mentioned the Spirit as a name here, and we know Spirit Jabrail, if I'm not mistaken. And the angels will stand in a row. None will speak except those permitted by the Most Gracious, and they will utter only what is right. Such is the inevitable day. Whoever wills, let him take refuge in his Lord. Take refuge. I think this word, I really like this, saying this in my daily life, taking refuge in God. I want to start taking refuge in this life before I go hereafter, because I feel how strong this word is. And God is warning us, sufficiently warning us about this imminent retribution. So I need to take a refuge in God. And the last verse, God is explaining how this day, that is the day when everyone will examine what his hands have sent forth, and the disbeliever will say, "Oh, I wish I were dust." So we hear a proclamation from this believer says, "Oh, I wish I were dust." For me, in this even in this life, some disbeliever might say they think, I mean, they think they'll become dust. They don't know, they don't have any idea about hereafter, and they think, like, well, nothing, we're just gonna live and die, that's it, there's nothing gonna happen. For them, for their mindset, that's the truth for them, right? But God is warning, sufficiently warning in the Quran, in many, like, in many verses, the same thing. They don't believe hereafter. And the disbeliever will say, "Oh, I wish I were dust." Surah 79, the snatchers, Al-Na'azat. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Most merciful. The angels who snatch the souls of the disbelievers forcibly, and those who gently take the souls of the believers joyfully. The first two verses of this surah again has a contrast between, inshallah, us and the disbelievers. How the angels will take our soul if we are disbelievers. They will do this forcibly. But if we are believers, inshallah, they will take our souls gently, joyfully. And those floating everywhere, eagerly racing with one another to carry out various commands. The day the quack quacks, followed by the second blow. Certain minds will be terrified, their eyes will be subdued. They will say, "We have been recreated from the grave. How did this happen after we had turned into rotten bones?" Really strong verses. There is a second blow, followed by the second blow. At that time, God is warning us, there will be some minds, there will be some some people, right? Minds will be terrified, and their eyes will be subdued, and they will say, "We have been recreated from the grave. How did this happen after we had turned into rotten bones?" Again, we hear proclamations about people who didn't even think about hereafter, and they keep also saying this in the verse 12. They had said, "This is an impossible recurrence." I think that's why also Rashad Khalifa was explaining the basic belief, the first pillars, actually believing in one God, believing in hereafter, and leading a righteous life, right? He was mentioning three things in the first, in the beginning. I mean, for a person. After believing in God, a person should believe in hereafter, which is so important. and like last two surah, we keep hearing the and seeing the retribution of how they are in how they are in bad condition there, because of their disbelief of hereafter, like specifically, and their utterance is, how did this happen after we had turned into rotten bones? They cannot even imagine, that's why they are asking a question still. Like as if they will get an answer. The things happening there, right? And verse 13, all it takes is one nudge. Whereupon they get up, having known about the history of Moses. His Lord called him at the holy valley of Tuba. Go to Pharaoh, he has transgressed. Tell him, would you not reform? Let me guide you to your Lord, that you may turn reverent. He then showed him the great miracle. All it takes is one nudge. Whereupon they get up. So that much easy for God to make this so-called unbelievable thing for the disbelievers. Like, the resurrection is for such a big deal for them. And it's impossible for disbelievers, right? But for God is saying just one nudge. Whereupon they get up. That much powerful God is. And now God is talking about the history of Moses. He is telling us how he commanded Moses to go and ask, or inform Pharaoh, right? Go to Pharaoh, he has transgressed. Tell him, would you not reform? Let me guide you to your Lord, that you may turn reverent. He then showed him the great miracle. Inshallah, I will be stop right here. For me, today was mostly hereafter subject. Inshallah, Saturday, another brother or sister will be reading from here, and they will explain us the story of Moses, inshallah. Is there any comment or questions?
Well, sure, brother. Thank you. Yeah, so I think you asked, did you have a question about something also? Was it about or you were just making a comment about the mountains being stabilizers?
Oh, yes. I heard that earthquakes
Mm-hmm.
sometimes not happening because of the mountains.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, God has created the mountains as stabilizers, otherwise the earth will, it stabilizes the earth crust, otherwise you'll have earthquakes because the plates will shift more. So, basically, they are able to, like, if you read any of these articles online, there's plenty of articles. Like if you just say mountain stabilizers,
Yeah.
so basically you'll see that it says that mountains has some kind of a rooting, basically, which is pushed into the underlying Earth's mantle. So it increases the stability of the Earth's crust because of these roots. So it just goes into those roots and it stops those plates from moving because of that.
Wow. Also, it's really interesting. Trees also doing something for the erosion.
Hmm.
Erosion.
Yeah, same. It's kind of like the same ideology,
Wow.
that you see the trees doing. Mountains also have their own roots. That's
Subhanallah.
why like mountains are like living creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Subhanallah.
Because God says another surah where the mountains were glorifying with David.
Yeah.
Yeah, subhanAllah. And I think there's also one in 33, Surah 33, it's verse 70 something. One of the last ones, it said the mountains were one of the ones that were afraid of the freedom of
Their
choice.
responsibility, yes.
Yeah, mashallah, the responsibility of so that tells us a lot right there. And the mountains are so big and huge and enormous, and if like them and the stars were afraid of it, that definitely says something, because we're not as big or as powerful as a mountain, and they were afraid of it.
Yeah. There's only one explanation: the human being is stupid.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Transgressing and stupid. Right. I think even the messenger, I think that was he said it's actually more was like, I think it said transgressing and ignorant, but I
Yeah.
heard in a study he said stupid is actually more appropriate, which it does make sense. God forgive us. Yeah, I really wanted to say something about I think it's verse 7. We created sleeping during the night. I really like that, because there was one time I was traveling, something work related, like a couple months ago, and I had to pull over. I was so tired, I was exhausted. I had been driving for several hours, and so I pulled over at a truck stop to take a nap, and I put on the Quran. And the first, it was so amazing, because as soon as I put it on and I started to rest, that was the Surah 78 came on, and then I hear that, we created sleeping so you can rest, and just right after I decided to pull over and get some sleep, and it was just so awesome. So every time I hear that, it just reminds me of sleeping is really it's really nice. It's because if someone's ever tried staying up for days, or it's hard on the body, and you wake up feeling so refreshed. I mean, even if it's like an hour nap or something, God restores us.
Yes, mashallah. I have a question. kinda skipped the uh, like I didn't talk about the verse Surah 79 verse 6, the day the quakes.
Quote. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know, inshallah, if you guys have any comment about this verse. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's talking about the day of judgment, when the quakes, because it's going to be total destruction everywhere. So the mountain will be like fluffy wool and everything. So the earth will, God says, the earth will give rise to every dead person.
Yeah.
So imagine all the graves will be opened and everything. So there's going to be a lot of movement. Mountains will be wiped out,
Yeah.
So there will be the first blow, right? And then there's your second blow, right? So that God says,
First blow is
the day the earthquakes, the day the quake quakes, followed by the second blow, right? So the second blow is talking about the blowing of the horn, I believe. Right? The first time the horn is blown, everybody will perish except, the angel who has to blow the horn to make everybody rise. So then the second blow happens and all the creatures will be terrified and resurrected. Yeah.
Second blow is after resurrection, or starter
Second
of
blow
resurrection.
is the resurrection, yeah. So we read 2 pages, right?
Let me see. We read from Surah 78, verse 38.
No, 32, 39, 37, 7, 39. Did you read 77, 39?
I read 38. I started with 38.
Oh, 77, 38. Okay, fine. Okay.
So be safe.
Okay.
Until 79, 20.
79, 28. So you just need to read 8 more verses then.
Should I read 8 more verses?
Yeah, up to 79, 28.
Okay. But he disbelieved and rebelled. Then he turned away in a hurry. He summoned and proclaimed. He said, I am your Lord Most High. Consequently, God committed him to the retribution in the hereafter, as well as in the first life. This is a lesson for the reverent. Are you more difficult to create than the heaven he constructed it? He raised its masses and perfected it. He made its night dark
Yeah, I think
and
it's good.
bright
28.
its
The 20.
morn.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, imagine like Pharaoh, that God sends a messenger to him and he shows him actual miracles. And he says, I'm your Lord Most High. In response.
Yeah, he must have a very terrible jinn or companion assigned to him. to think
Yeah, I
like
mean,
that.
amazing. Yeah, I mean, it shows that he was a very, very arrogant person, you know. Extreme tyrant.
Yeah, I guess that shows, I guess, how much arrogance can blind you, you know, because like something amazing. I mean, I know they were like just the plagues or something like that, like, or the, you know, the water rivers being turned into blood and the locusts and the frogs and these other ones. Like, that's, you know, if I were to see that, you know, or if people were to see that today, I mean, they would be astounded. Like, but I mean, the fact that he still rebelled after seeing like so many great signs, you know, it's yeah, it is.
Yeah, imagine he saw Moses' staff turning into a snake and swallowing all the stuff, magic.
Right, and he even went as far as to like get the best magicians, you know, where he could, you know, from every town, like he got the best of the best, you
And
know.
the magicians even fell prostrate.
Right, and even they, and that should have. I mean, if they're doing that, like that should even tell him. But I guess it. Didn't it? I could be wrong, but I have a question about that. Did it say? I think there's a surah in the Quran where it says how Pharaoh and his people will be summoned to the worst retribution, or the most painful, or like the. I don't know if it says the lowest pit, but I think I remember seeing like the retribution for them in hell will be like really bad.
Well, retribution in hell for everybody will be really bad.
Yeah. I know, but like for him, it was.
Well, everybody gets their ranks. Yeah,
Right.
Everybody has ranks accordingly. So there's obviously, but you know, the lowest pit of hell is for hypocrites.
Hypocrite, right. Yeah, that's.
But God says that, you know, to the worst retributions, but that means like, you know,
hell itself, I guess, is the worst retribution.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Surah 27.
Yeah, brother Salami read some verses about Gianna. It's inevitable, and they'll never taste any cool drink. You know, and just, you know, experiencing thirst, you know, out here, or just like the small things that the body goes through in this life. It's really the mind. You can't wrap the mind around it, like just how bad it'll be, and then, you know, and then how amazing it'll be in paradise. You know, on the contrary, like even the best joys in this life, it'll be so much better. So, you know, that's it's really a day that's it's so important to prepare for. You know, because God tells us about it. You know, and and in the other verses said, you know, how people will be terrified. You know, so like sometimes I'll think of like a scary dream. You know, I might have had a long time ago or whenever. You know, and like how scared I was or terrified of the nightmare, and then, you know, you just wake up and you think about like how scary that was, and what if that happens forever and forever. You know, and it's even worse than that. Like, I mean, just being stuck in a nightmare alone, you're not even getting physical pain, or you don't experience thirst. You know, just that it's so bad. You know, you do anything to not go there and strive for a place that's better, but, you know, we're told it's not even going to be that. It's going to be so much worse. You know, so it's really a sad case, I guess, for disbelievers. You know, the regret. May God protect us.
And yet there is a verse telling the hell will be shown to them day and night, and on the day of resurrection, admit Pharaoh's people into the worst retribution.
Yeah, mashallah. I think that's the verse I was thinking about. Yeah, the worst retribution, because they experience retribution in this life, getting drowned, and then hell is going to be the worst one.
Yeah. Well, this guy just said, "I am your Lord Most High." This much like bad proclamation. I think there was the only guy in the world who said that with that much arrogance.
Yeah, the way I look at it, it's like, Pharaoh is an example of a person who is arrogant and has, the means to be a tyrant. But there can be so many people that can be like Pharaoh if they had what Pharaoh had been given. If you give them that much power and wealth and everything, they would be just the same as him or probably worse. A lot of people, you know.
Pharaoh as a symbol, huh? Symbol of arrogance.
Yeah. He just had a big ego, and his ego was his god, basically, so nothing else. He believed like he was all in all, but I mean, there's so many people that are like that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way, you almost have modern day pharaohs today. With some of these rulers and these globalists. These real people. You don't really hear about them in the news, but you running stuff behind the scenes and governments and stuff. And I mean, you hear about some of them, but yeah, they're just modern day tyrants. Could, like you said, they could even be worse. Only God knows the stuff they do and schemes they commit.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I mean, Pharaoh was a disbeliever, and he will go to hell, right? But then he was not a hypocrite, right? The hypocrite goes to the lowest pit of hell. So there are people that are worse than Pharaoh. There are people that are worse than Pharaoh, right? So many people are worse than Pharaoh.
Wow. Can we look at the verse 3, Surah 79, verse 3? God is,
9 verse 3.
yeah, Surah 79, verse 3.
Those floating everywhere?
Yeah, and those floating everywhere. Are those jinns?
No, talk about angels. The angels who snatched the souls of the disbelievers forcibly, and those who take the souls of the believer joyfully, and those floating everywhere, eagerly racing with one another to carry out various commands.
Okay, mashallah.
So, since brother Salami, you're on the computer now and you're sharing your screen, I added a new feature in the submission app, but it's available currently just on the website, submission.guide. So if you want to share your browser, maybe,
Yeah.
I can just quickly go through that.
Can you see my Uy.
No, because you're not sharing that on Jitsi, right?
Okay. Let's try this. How about now?
Yeah, now I can see it. Yeah. So, just refresh your screen because it's showing the old version. Okay, so now it's refreshed. So click on the world practices. Right, so this is new. So basically, you need to authenticate.
Oh yeah, I was having this difficulty actually the last time. There's something.
Oh, you're not set if web is not working?
No. Whenever I click anything here, just this one.
Okay.
Should I create a new one?
If you want, okay. But you're
Here, failed to sign in.
because what does it say?
It just went away. He failed to sign in, but it was
Is
blocked.
what?
Let's try again. Okay, ready?
Yeah, but I can read because my the menu comes up. Go ahead now. I can read. It says wrong password. Yeah,
Does not have password.
password is invalid.
Okay, let me.
Maybe I can share my screen.
Yeah, let's do that.
The thing is, the people on Jitsi will not be able to see unless you share this window, Jitsi window.
Okay, just a second. Turn off this. Jitsi. Oh. Okay, yeah. We see your screen.
Okay. So, all right. So I guess I'm showing from within the app. So basically there is this thing called world practices, right? So if you're signed in, you should be able to add as many locations in the world and simultaneously see their prayer times
Perfect.
and compare them. And also you can see their fasting times, Ramadan times, basically. I didn't add Hajj times because Hajj times does only happen in Saudi Arabia, so it doesn't change. Because if you want to go for Hajj, it's going to be the date for Saudi Arabia, and that shows on the main screen right over here for Hajj.
MashaAllah.
For Salat times, you have the Salat stuff and then thing. So basically, if you want to add a location, so let's say we want to add Turkey, right? Let's say Istanbul. I'll select Istanbul, right? It's gonna ask me to confirm, and then you'll see in the list then Istanbul would be there at the bottom, right? And so I can see the prayer times and I can see Ramadan times as well, right? And so if you want to delete any of the locations, basically you can just click here and say delete you. And then it will just update, so, and then a plus sign to add them, basically. That's it.
Perfect, mashallah.
Oh, and also, one more thing is you can also go to the detail for that. So like say if the first day is let's say here first day is March 23rd, right? So why is it March 23rd? So you can see that it says, okay, the new moon time was 8:23 p.m. and the local sunset time was 7:17 p.m. That's why there was a day extra, because the moonrise was later, But say if you compare that to Morocco is in the same time zone, but they had different times, right? So if you go to Morocco, like sunset was 5:23 p.m. GMT, right? But a local sunset was at 6:50 p.m. So it was new moon was before their sunset time, right? So that's why it was on the 22nd, but versus there was the 23rd, right? So 8:23. Yeah, I'm still tweaking it a little bit, but it's there. I'm still gonna keep looking at it. But and then you can, so on your right now on the web the sharing doesn't work, but it will work on the phones. So you can share it in a text or whatever, copy it and paste it by clicking on share as well. Yeah, that's it.
MashaAllah, thank you, man.
Yeah, welcome.
If there's no another comment or question, God willing, I'll conclude the study today. Thank you so much for participating. May God bless you all. Selam.